My name is Juliana Nykolaiszyn, and with me is Tanya Finchum. We're with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program at the OSU Library. Today is Friday, August 12th, 2011, and we're in Hugo, Oklahoma, interviewing Mike Fulton. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to begin by learning
Phenomenal.
a little more about you. Could you tell us the year you were born and where you were born?
I was born in 1957, April 9th, 1957, in Olathe, Kansas. And as a farm boy out in the country, we had, small farms, and we, had animals and everything. And I kind of grew up around animals and a lot of work all the time. So the circus kind of blended into what I was when I was a child.
And were your parents farmers?
Well, off and on they were. My father, he bought cattle for another guy, another cattle company. And they sold it to Wilson Meat there in Kansas City. So he was kind of into the buying and selling of cattle, and with another man, and did a lot of, had hogs too, had pigs, and I think that's probably how he fed us, by raising. We had a barn next to us where we had, sows that were giving pigs every night. It's one of those kind of processes.
Okay.
So we always had animals and horses. I had a horse, favorite horse. His name was Scratch. He was a big Appaloosa, and he was a huge horse, but I could just hop on him, and he'd see me getting off the school bus, and he'd be panting up and down the pasture, for me to get ready for him to let him out of the pen. Me and him take a ride, because we used to do it every day. So, but that was kind of how I grew up.
Well, tell me a little bit about your parents, their names.
My mother's name is Barbara June Fulton. She was born in 1931 in Smith Center, Kansas. And she was a country girl, that, as a farmer, a wheat farmer. All her family were wheat farmers. Her grandfather, my great-grandfather, was a farmer. All her uncles, who is Aunt Isla's brothers and sisters, who D.R. Miller's wife, is, the people that they lived with out there, and they had thousands of acres of wheat, every year. And I even, she would take us out there sometimes during wheat season, and I'd drive a truck right next to the combine. So, and I only did it a couple of times, just to be able to say I did it. But she joined the circus in 1940s, in the 40s. I think it was 44, 40, right after they come to Hugo. I think it was 2 or 3 years after they made Hugo their home. And she was a young girl, and she did horses and elephants, and she did whatever they needed. I'm sure she filled in, what they needed back then when she was young. And she had 5 children, and she was a mother too, plus a show person. She had, in the circus you have wardrobes. You have to make your own wardrobe, and you have to have a theme. And she would work every year in the wardrobe sewing. After she come back, and this was in 1974 when we come and lived and moved to Hugo permanently. So she started that up. She had made alpha blankets, and she was a good mama, and just she did good. And my father, he grew up kind of poor. He was an orphan at Goodland out here south of town, and at 13 years old he decided he wanted to leave, but they wouldn't let kids have shoes back then, because when they had shoes they'd run off, so he got him a pair of shoes, and he hopped a train and went to Kansas City, and by chance the circus was there, and that's how he got with the circus. So he hopped a train and went to the circus and joined it right there. And that's how my mom and dad met. But, he was there probably 6 or 8 years before. She was back and forth knew him. And then finally they met. And they were married, I can't remember the year, but they were married in Minnesota on the circus.
Well, what made your family get into the circus business?
Well, we kind of inherited. Our aunt, Isla, D.R. Miller's wife, she is my great aunt. And she's my gammy, too. She's kind of like my grandma. She's my grandmother's sister, and I love her to death. And she is the one that got this started for us. We can blame her for all this. She met D.R. Miller, and I don't know exactly how they met, but I know their wedding date is my birthday, which is April 9th. Their anniversary was on my birthday, and I always remember that. And I'm sure it was by chance, but Aunt Isla, she married D.R., and as a young boy, D.R. Saw a circus as a child, and this was in Macomb, Nebraska. His daddy took him and he saw a small dog and pony show, so that's what they decided, and that's kind of how it all got started. His daddy took him to a circus, and he loved it. He said he had suspenders on, and the overalls and everything. You know how it was back then, and but he loved it. And somehow they got started, had a dog and a horse, and Aunt Isla was always there, right along with him. Whatever he did, she was right there with him. And I know my mom and Aunt Isla, they talked, and eventually my mom said, "Yeah, I'll come." She needed a job. It was a summer job. She went to high school in Kansas, in Shawnee Mission, Kansas, and that's where she graduated at. And right after that, she come down here in the summertime and traveled with the circus and went back up there in the winter. And she, I think she had, I can't remember how many years on the road, but it was like 35 or 40, just a lot. But her and Aunt Isla, when the guys had to go off to war in the 40s, Mom, Aunt Isla, and a lot of the women took the show over, and they carried it through, while the guys went to the war. So, and they did that. So, Aunt Isla, she was she was known as being a pearl necklace, but she's not the pearl, it's the string underneath and hold it together. That's what she was known for being. That's what we called her. Because you never saw her out, walking around as a big showman as D.R. did. She was always behind, in the background, making it work. And that's who Aunt Isla was.
And what did your father do in the circus?
Well, anything that needed to be done. When he was young, his first job was taking care of a giraffe, the giraffes and the animals, and that was in the 40s. And he eventually, as you'll probably learn, that when somebody is called blow the show, when somebody leaves and that place there is vacant, they need somebody to fill it. And sometimes that's what you got, 3 or 4 or 5 jobs. When they ask you, can you do this till we get somebody else? Yeah, we'll do it. We always, try to do the best you can, make the right decision. But what was your question again?
What he did in the circus.
What
your father
my
did.
father did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it started out as an animal person, but he was a diesel mechanic too. He helped with a herd of animals, the elephants. He's always was close to the elephants. I mean, and he trained horses too. He was kind of like the person that made, I don't know, I think of this place as an institution, because it's got its own thing. And they, back in the 1880s, I know they had Wild West shows and everything, but, they made their own institution. That's what they did. And my dad was just part of it. He loved it. And when it gets in your blood, it's just, I don't know, it's just, you can't get it out. I tried. Well, I didn't try too hard, but, it's just something that my dad loved, and he worked as a mechanic, and so also, as I did, he had to be a referee once in a while, because, when you got 200 people together, it's all not going to be hunky-dory. And, you have to, draw the line sometimes. And he was part of that. He was trying to straighten people out, talk to them. He could go talk to them, and they just quit, just quit. And he did a lot of that, mediating. And, just anything you needed. If the elephants needed a load of water, he'd jump in there and go get a load somewhere. He just, and that was part of my job too. At one time, I was making sure everything had water. That was part of my job. Putting the big top up, and driving trucks inside the big top and stuff. And he was there, helping me. He was right there. He taught me how to drive a truck.
So I was going to say, who taught him and then who taught you? So
Yeah, he taught me. He taught himself, I'm sure.
even to train the animals too?
Well, when you get a lot of people together, a lot of trainers and a lot of minds, there's a lot of different ways you can do things, and he had just one part of it. There was a lot of people there that it takes a village to run a circus, not just one or two people.
Lots to watch them.
Yeah.
Learn from.
And that's the only way you learn is by watching, by watching. And then when you get to that bridge, you know how to cross it, and it works. It works.
Well, going back to your youth, can you recall your earliest circus memory?
My earliest circus memory that I can remember is, of course, traveling with the circus. One of my earliest, and I can't remember if it was before the boat show that I was on or after, was a trip we took with DR in an airplane. I was a child, and I remember the trip, and we flew to Tennessee from Hugo. And I don't know who was a pilot. I don't know. I was just a child, but I remember the flight. And that was one of my earliest memories. And when we landed, which we landed, I think, right next to the circus in a field. He didn't call. He didn't have a radio. He's one of them kind. Well, I think eventually he did, but back then he didn't. And we landed, and I remember the next time I remember something is my dad. It was in Tennessee, I think. One of our elephants had run off, got scared, and it ran into a cornfield. And I remember the old coupe cars and, the old 50 model. And I was sitting on the trunk, and I seen him and a few guys go into that cornfield after that elephant. And then just a few seconds later, well, it seemed like seconds, but here he come riding the elephant out on his head. And he's just telling her to jump right in the truck. And that's what she did. As a child, that's one of my first memories of the circus. The second memory is being on the boat show, which it was the florist. I don't know if anybody really knew a lot about it, but DR somehow purchased a merchant marine ship. And I don't even know how big it was, but he got some idea about putting a circus on a ship and then pulling up to the ports and having a circus with the rings on the ship. I don't see how it could be moving, but anyway, I think maybe he unloaded right there on the port and had the circus right there. I'm not real sure what they did. I'm sure they had something on the ship itself so it wouldn't have to be unloaded every day and unloaded. What they probably just had a minimum amount they put out there, and everything else was on the ship. And we lived in Jacksonville, Florida. And my mother, she didn't like the idea a whole lot, but she went along with it with my dad, because I know the way my mother is, she wouldn't like to be on a ship out there, and if a hurricane come through, or something, she's down in the middle of it. And this was in the 60s. And we lived on the ship. I remember that outside the ship, we'd walk down the plank, and outside they had the trapeze set up in the port, and we'd play on and I know we were restricted about going on the boat because they didn't want a bunch of kids playing. So they put us over. We had a trapeze with a trapeze net, and we played on that. I remember playing on that, and just every day it was just like, I want to go out and do that. We'd swing and fall, and it was just like a ball. And I don't know if we were there 2 days or 2 years. Well, I know we weren't there 2 years. I think we were there about a month and a half or so. And
animals were on the ship too?
Yes, they had animals and all kind of exotic animals. It's just a floating circus is what it was. And I don't know of any other ship there ever was a circus ship ever. I don't know about the history of it or if there's ever been one, but that was the one that we had. And my mother, she took us kids, I remember used to take us, how we'd have to go up and eat at the cookhouse, we'd go up there. And one day somebody locked the engine room, and there was only one way to get in, and that's just to knock the door down or slide through a small porthole. So they stuck me through the porthole and opened the door to the engine room so they didn't have to knock the door down. But they had to get in there fast. They wasn't like they could wait till the next day. So I got in there, and I can remember the engines running. It was real loud in there. I was kind of scared, but it was just like right around the corner. It wasn't real bad. But I did that, and I remember walking down the deck plank to the land. I could see fishing lines going down off the side of the boat. People were fishing off the boat, and it was real rusty looking. I think that's what I remember. It was kind of a rust bucket, but it was our ship, I guess.
And is that port in Jacksonville? Did it go on up the coast?
It went up the coast to East Coast, and it got to a town in Nova Scotia, and it sank in the engine room caught on fire, and it sank in port there. And I don't know the year. My dad was on there. There's pictures of him carrying animals out from the ship. They're all wet, and I know Okie Carr has a leopard in his arms. And I don't know if you know this, but there's a movie called Circus World that's kind of takes that theme of what happened there, and there's a movie that's same way. It's a circus ship that goes down, and when the ship went down, I guess all the money went down with it. So they had to get a diver to go down and get the money, get the safe, all the valuables, and then they raised it and took it out and sunk it out there in the bay. But all the animals, some of the animals were rescued. We lost a few. The zebras, stuff like that we rescued.
Were you on the ship when it?
No, I wasn't. We were back in Hugo. My mother wouldn't have went. As soon as they untied that rope, she would have been on land. She wouldn't have. And with her kids too, she couldn't see it. But
they had actually performed at a couple of spots already before it sank.
Yeah. And I don't know where it was, but I'm sure there's a list somewhere that's got it. But that's some of my first rememberings as a child. And after the boat circus, I worked as a little clown, and excuse me, DR bought Carson Barnes. This was Algie Kelly that was on the boat show. And they let us kids walk around as uniforms and had heads on, you know, waving and stuff. As a child, I did that and did a lot of, you know, just stuff that kids could do. I rode a float, you know, and stuff like that. They like to see little kids. And I worked concessions, you know, for a few years. I had my own concession stand, probably about 4 years, on the Midway, in the Circus Midway. Me and my brother Jack did.
Did you have any special calls or barks that you used in the crowds? Or?
Oh yeah. As soon as we had to open, we'd let the people line up, you know, get in the ticket line, and then we'd open it up. And as soon as we opened up, the popcorn would be popping, and you know, and as soon as they saw that, they'd come flooding. You know, I mean, you know, there's a little technique I guess you use. It's called smell a robot, and it works, guaranteed. But you know, we use it every day. But
And how have you learned how to do the concessions? Have you
well,
been an apprentice or something?
really, I watched a lot. My mom had concessions. She was in charge of the concessions for years there on Carson Barnes, and she was, you know, just she had a trailer a semi trailer that she had her office in, you know, and we go in and they made Cokes there, but everywhere else there was stands that they did individually. So, and that's how I got going in it. I sold about everything you can sell, you know, even novelties, you know, little toys or whatever. My mom sold those for years too. She had her little stand out front, you know. It was easier than having to worry about all the concessions and stuff. Gave her an easier job.
So you were drawn to more concession type jobs than performing jobs?
Well, I worked in the show a little bit, but I was the person behind the scenes driving the truck, making sure the animals were taken care of. I worked in the show and helped train the elephants, you know, and you know, just work with them. When DR bought all the elephants that he bought 50 of them one time, and I uncrated them. And we trained them, and the ones that were kind of didn't have any sense, we got rid of them. So, you know, I mean, that's what you got to do.
How did they arrive? If you said you uncrated them, how did they get to Hugo?
I don't really know. I was probably 17 years old, 16 or 17 when they come, and I just pulled the boards off and said hello. Little bitty babies, but they were, I think, I don't know what year it was, but they were stopping. You know, they were gonna quit letting them import them. So DR got an idea I'd get some and take care. He loved them. That was he just loved elephants. That was his life. So.
Where would you keep that many elephants in Hugo?
Well, we kept them down in the barn, elephant barn, but they were small. You know, they were just lined up, and then eventually we kept 25 or 28 of them. We had Barbara and Kay and Susie and the other ones, but then here come the second generation, you know, and they were all named after my great aunts, too, after Aunt Isla's sisters, Margaret, you know, all of them. There were 11 children in her family, and we named them all the girls. I've been named by a horse. That's all I've been named. But anyway, that's how they got their names. They're all names of my great aunts and relation. That's how they got, when they were uncrated, we named them.
Well, when your family moved to Hugo permanently, where were y'all living in town?
Well, when we come from Spring Hill, Kansas, where we lived, we moved to winter quarters out there. We had a big 70 by 14-foot trailer. That's where we moved to, and we lived there and worked there at the same place.
You didn't have to go far to go to work.
No, just walk out the door and go back there. And a lot of times what I did in winter quarters was paint, making sure everything was painted, you know, and make sure it looked great, because you got a lot of people looking at it, you know, circus fans and stuff, and then you got police and all that. You got to make it look, you know, make them pass inspection, and it's rough sometimes. That's what, you know, you just got to do everything you can. Just make a list and go. Of course, you know, being a circus owner all the years, he knew what the list was. He just handed it to you because he'd been there and done that. So, I mean, it was kind of easy. And, you know, as I grew older, and a little bit bigger, I started working on the big top. I worked on the big top for about 8 years. It was hard work, and we'd put it up every day, take it down every day, except when we stay in like a 3-day stand, and we put it up and leave it like 2 or 3 days. And when we do that, it was just like breath of fresh air, having a night off and not have to tear the tent down, because about 10 o'clock, you have to go and tear it down. And it takes you about 2 or 3 hours. Or it takes you, however, if the weather is real bad, it takes you you'd be surprised how fast a tent. We put Carson Barnes' 5-ring circus tent down in 45 minutes before. We didn't load the seats. We knocked them down on the ground and got the tent down before the storm come. So we were in a hurry. I mean, we've done stuff like that.
Can you walk me through the process of setting up a tent?
Well, first of all, let me go back to how it's rolled up and unrolled. It's called a spool truck, which I drove for about 6 years. You know, I backed the tent up, rolling the tent up and rolling it every morning, and then at night I'd roll it back up. You know, I'd load it up. I did that for 6 years, and it was a spool truck. It had 2 big sections to it, and it was chain driven by PTO, and there was 2 big spools, and we just back up, and the tent would roll up in there and just make a big ball. It'd be cut in 2 sections, right in the middle. And eventually we got an idea where we extended the back of the truck out with a roller, and when the truck backed up, the tent could go back up under the truck a little ways, so we could roll it faster. That was the whole thing, because when you roll it up and it tightens up, you can't pull it. So this way we could back up further, and it'd come out up underneath this roller, see? It'd go back up underneath and like this. So, and that was, I don't know whose idea that was. I think it was Jaime Garcia's, but that's my brother-in-law. But he come up with that, and you could roll it faster and more at one time instead of stopping every time. You could back up until that back wheel got up to the tent, and then you could roll it, and it just, you know, roll about 3 times more than what we did before. You know, it was like trial and error, you know. But I backed the truck up every night whenever it was rolled up. Working with an animal, you know, an elephant all the time. Barbara, I worked with her probably, Barbara the elephant, at least 2 hours a day with her, putting the tent up, and then we used her to set our seats with. She'd pick them up and set them down by my control. I'd tell her to back up, or, you know, of course she had somebody helping her, but I'd tell them when to back up, set the seat down, and we'd unload all our reserved seats by elephant power, you know, and we use the elephant everywhere we can, and they love to do it. That's just something that they love to do. And I backed that truck up. Of course, you know, I did the water. I made sure every trailer house had water, so they could have a bath. I just find that, you know, I'd find we call it a 24-hour man, and I'd find out where's the water. It could be a water faucet right there next to the elephants. I'd hope, and I say just start filling it up, or there could be a spigot uptown or a water faucet or a hydrant somewhere they'd let us tap into. I'd go get the water trucks, which they were a stake driver too. We kind of use them two different ways, which drive the stakes in the ground. I'd go get water, making sure everything had water, the cookhouse, pie car, all the tanks were tapped off every day, and just a guy to do that. I had there were, a few people there that, that would do that.
And how long would that take normally
It would take all day.
to do the water?
Yeah, when you got 20 some elephants, it took 5,000 gallons a day. What it took. That's what it took. Close to 5,000 feet, and a lot of that's the elephants drinking it.
Mm-hmm.
They drank like four times a day.
So each trailer house got a certain amount, or
Filled up. We just had a guy with a water hose. We had the water truck had a small pump on it, and we just go over in with a hose, fill everybody's up. A guy did that, and the cookhouse, pie car, made sure the concessions, they're all full. I mean, and then when you just start thinking, it's just a full-time job, and especially if it takes a long time to get it, people will be sitting there with their buckets saying, hey, come on, because they come get bucket loads of it, just take a bath with it or wash up with.
you would do that after you set the tent up? Or?
I'd be doing it after the stakes were driven, where the tent, see, that's where the water trucks were too. They were kind of like a tandem thing there, and they would drive the stakes, and then the second that last stake was driven, or the other one would pull off, and we had two of them that drive around. One would pull off, and by then I knew where to get the water, and I said, head that way and go right over there. And we had a big tank by the elephants. I just tell them, go get a load and unload it in there. Just start unloading as fast as you can. And we had another truck, and he would do the trailers and stuff and help with the animals. The animals would get water first before the people would. It's my way I worked at. I didn't, I'm sorry if you got water in your trailer and you need to take a bath, you should have waited or should have filled up on the way or whatever. But the hippo's going to get his tank full before you get your bath. Sorry. And that's just the way it is. And the animals came first, always. That's just the way it was.
So there was actually a hippo?
Yeah, we had a hippo. Well, I've seen probably 5 or 6 of them, in my time.
Well, how would you transport those? They typically have to have water to sit.
Yeah, we had a tank that we built that they could dip into, just a water tank, just a big tub. And, we'd fill it up every day, and every night we had a valve, we'd run it out, and we had a little bucket payloader, we'd run everything out and put it in the dumpster, there was a lot of waste that we had to always get rid of, and going on to what I did, I took care of a lot of that sometimes too. We had a big payloader, and I drove that truck sometimes. So my last job was to run that loader and load up all the manure. And you wouldn't believe the people that come and bring their trucks to want that elephant manure or horse manure. Oh, it's valuable. You wait a couple of years and you can grow anything. It's great fertilizer. They want us to separate it. They never wanted our trash and our manure together. They said, here's this dumpster for manure, and this is for the trash, And picking up trash was another thing in the morning after all the trucks were gone. I'd drive around the payloader, and we'd make sure every stick and every piece of trash was picked up. So it was just like, except for where the elephants were, you could see where they had dug the ground up. And, the rings, you could see the rings where they were. It's kind of neat, to see it where it was just gone. Nobody really ever thinks about looking at that. After the circus and the tent's gone and the rings are all still there and the elephant where they were, the horses,
The impressions.
The impressions that's left. It's neat.
You mentioned the tent was in two parts. Would it be the
Oh yeah,
top or the other?
we roll them in two sections. It was called a spool truck, and you just say it was on a spool, and we just roll it up. The two sections, roll them up in two different, and then we just.
But was the tent split long ways or
Uh,
crossways? When you say two parts.
well, not long ways, short ways.
Okay.
Yeah, across from. Yeah, but it was a football field. It's the size of a football field.
And
Was
as you
back
rolled
then.
it up, would you be checking for tears or that type of thing too?
We were real careful, and Jaime Garcia is my brother-in-law. He has done this so much that he knows how everything goes, you know. Or back whenever I was doing it. Today, now they got a different kind of big top, but back then he knew how to fold the tent up, how to bring when you fold it together, how to make sure the bell rings were flat. And if you know what a bell ring, it's a big piece of metal with a bunch of clevises around it. Now that would, you know, when you fold it and roll it up, it would start tearing. If you didn't get that bell ring in a certain place when you fold it up, it would tear. But we figured through process of elimination, you figure out how to do it, and it wouldn't be tore too bad. So the bell rings would get the tent more than, if it was folded wrong, it would get it more than anything when we were rolling it up. But like anytime, you know, you got weather, it's been raining all night long. Here's Barbara and Kay hooked up to me. See, here's into the back of my spool truck. I can't back up. As soon as I just say back up, I just get and spin. And as soon as, it's just like boom, and I just let them drive me. You know, so I sometimes at night when you got a big semi out in the middle of the mud, how you gonna get back? And them girls there, we'd try it. We couldn't do it. We say go get them. We have to sit there and wait. They come and they just pull me back. They loved it.
Good elephants.
Oh yeah, they loved it.
Do you miss a particular part the most?
Really, no. You could probably ask me what the opposite of that. I could probably tell you a couple things, and the rest of it's good for me.
Then what don't you miss then?
Well, working on the circus makes everything to me look pretty easy. I don't know, when you get up at 5:36 and then go, you go to bed about 12 and try to get a nap between. That seems pretty hard. And then when you come over here, you got an 8-hour job, and you get up and you go home, you don't have to worry about anything. It's simple to me. So circus made my other life, my town life, simple. And the work, I don't know, electrician. I'm an electrician right now, straight. It's not real hard. I don't know why. It's just, and I own my own railroad business for about 6 years. So that was kind of making everything easy too, because when I worked from my railroad business, I went from, working from the circus. When I started my railroad business, there were so many similarities to it. It just kind of scared me, I said, wow, this is something, But that's how I kind of attacked that, because they'd call me out in the middle of the night to re-rail a train, put an engine back on, and it's just like somebody waking you up on the show, honking the horn, say, get up and go.
But you couldn't call Barbara.
Yeah, I couldn't call Barbara. Well, I sure wished her. I needed her a lot. She's a good girl. Even if she just stood by me and said, hey, mine, because a lot of times when we put the big top up, she'd be the one that put the tent up. And I'd see her every day. And you got to understand, the elephant's so intelligent that it's unimaginable, how smart they are. And she knew who everybody was and what they did, and I'd come up to her, talk to her. Even in the elephant barn, they'd have a tub of oats right there, and I'd go in there and I'd sneak in. First thing I'd walk in, she'd be the first elephant in the elephant barn. She'd trumpet up, open her mouth. I'd go over handfuls of oats and throw it in there. And I could walk around them and everything. It wasn't no big deal. They were sweet to me. Loved every one of them.
And did you always only work for Carson and Barnes, or did you work for other circuses?
Well, like a child, I worked for Kelly Miller. Of course, that's really not saying you work, but Carson Barnes, and I worked, I helped Circus Royale one time and Circus Genoa. They went up to Canada one time, and they asked me one time if I could hop in a truck with a trailer that they got loaded with a new big top in it. And I said, yeah, I can do that. So I ran up there, went up to Vancouver Island, drove up there. I had my van behind me. My brothers were driving my van, so whenever I decided I wanted to come home, I thought, I might. So anyway, I went up there and worked for them for about 2 or 3 weeks up in Canada and Alaska, right up in that area. And then I got a good job offer down here, so I come back.
And how long were you working for the circus?
My total years? Well, from as a child to 1988. That's when I kind of retired.
And what made you decide to retire?
Well, it's just traveling, I wanted to just settle down and just, I don't know, a change, I guess. Everybody gets kind of tired of what they do sometimes and they want to change, but that's probably what was mainly. I just wanted to change and, try something different. Everybody kind of retires from the circus. If you notice, there's a lot of people, that could probably do circus work, but just, it's a hard life. I mean, you just, sometimes if you get exhausted, you don't have any time to get caught up. It's kind of like an everyday thing. But you just got to take your time and do the best job you can. But
over the course of that, 25 years or so, were there a couple of things that changed within the circus?
Oh, it changed. It changed dramatically. See, just like whenever I first learned how to drive a truck, we were driving some gas rig international, and my dad says, well, we're semis and we got 40 of them or 50 of them. We need to change this, because they were blowing up engines. And he was a mechanic then, and they were blowing engines up all the time in these international trucks, and he'd have to change a motor on the side of the road. Of course, he had like 3 or 4 motors, in the back of the semi. They had a mechanic truck where they had motors. If it blew, you just take the other one out and throw the other one in, and just like that. That's how they did their mechanic. But eventually, we got thinking, hey, we need to turn to diesel, because these were gas rigs, and that's what my dad did. He kind of turned the table there, kind of got a few diesels, and from these international gas rigs. Everybody can drive them. That was just it. Anybody drive those international. That's why they liked them. But semis are a little different, and that's what I saw a change in. Was from the gas rig to the diesel truck. And a couple years, my brother and I, we even painted our trucks. We had our own fleet, and we try to make one a week in winter quarters is what we went to. Try to paint, do the body work. We had our own paint shop down there, and that's what I did in winter, was do a lot of truck paint. Paint semis, and we did one year. We did a truck. Well, let me go back. I was called over to DR's office, and he asked me, can you fly to Missouri? Well, he didn't ask me. He told me to. I want you to go to Missouri and get this truck. I got a semi-load of paint up there. So I said, all right. So first thing I know, I was in a twin-engine plane going 200 miles an hour over the mountains over there, heading toward, Springfield, Missouri. Even I even flew the plane a little bit. He let me fly it. It was something. Anyway, I got in that truck, drove back, and he brought that paint, and he wanted us to paint these trucks. It was a blue metallic, and it's always been red, white, and blue, you know. And it was a different color paint. And he says, I want you to paint one truck, and I want to look at it. So we painted it, put a bunch of pinstripes on it and stuff, made it look real nice, like top job. He said, paint them all. So we painted them, and you know, got that going. And eventually, you know, the trucks break down, they buy new ones. But that's just the way it is.
That would keep you busy during the winter then. When you were in the circus as a youth, how did your living quarters?
Well, my mom and dad, we had a camper and trailer. And I lived in the camper with my two brothers. We had a small camper. And I think the things folded out and sleep 4 or 5, you know. So that's how we lived. And everybody else lived in the trailer. The younger kids, you know, my younger siblings, they lived there, and they let us older ones live over there. So that's how we lived mainly. And then as we grew up, we got our own trailers, you know, and everything. So, but that's just, you know, growing up, we all lived in a camper and a trailer.
And then when you would come back to winter quarters, you'd stay in the same.
Well, we'd rent a house. We had a house. So.
Ever live in the modern trailer park?
Yeah, down here.
Any memories of that?
I remember my cousins. Well, we call each other cousins. Fred Logan, and he was a lion trainer for Kelly Miller back in the days in the early '60s, and you know, he had a bunch of kids, you know, our age and everything, and they lived at that trailer park. It went a whole block there, and they lived on one side of the block where the road was, and we lived over on that other side. And I remember the Beatles were famous then, and we get out there and play Beatles songs and mimic them, you know, us and Chuck Logan and Walter. And see, he had 4 or 5 boys exactly our age, and for somehow they told us we were all related, and we all got real close, you know, and everything. So, but you know, me and in that trailer park, there was a lot of show people there. That's mainly who it was, just show people.
During the winter, usually.
Yeah, during the winter. Yeah, some of them had a mobile home there. They'd leave, you know, and they come back. But you know, wintertime, you know, they're scattered everywhere. You know, everybody's scattered around.
Well, how was your schooling then, with like elementary grade, school, high school? Where did that occur?
I went to Kansas City, it's Spring Hill, Kansas. I went to elementary school and graduated high school there in 1975.
You did that
I was a
before
Bronco.
While you were on
Summertime, I would be, as soon as that day, I was ready to go, because I always liked to have a little bit of money. And I'd like to buy my own clothes and stuff, and we go and have a little job here and there, you know, with the Circus. That'd be our little fun getaway. Mom and Dad would be going, so we'd just be going along with them.
So you didn't have to miss school to go work on the circus?
No, I never did, but now they do a lot. But back then, no, we didn't get spring break or nothing like that. We got snow days, you know, where we got snowed in, didn't get to go.
But when your parents would head out for the road, you wouldn't go with them until school was out?
Yeah, right, yeah. We had a grandmother that took care of us. Our grandmother in Kansas, Opal, and I was sister. She lived there, and she was our second home there. But
well, during those 25 years while you were on the circus too, did you marry and have children of your own during that time period?
Never did. Let me take that. I didn't get married. I had 2 children. Josie, she's now on the circus right now, Josie Fulton, and Corey Fulton. He's 22 and she's 36. So
You really didn't have to juggle having a family in a camper there while you were working then as you're an adult.
No, didn't have that problem.
Did you have a favorite venue, a favorite town you like to play in?
Well, I really don't. I don't know if that's a hard question because there's so many of them but I got so many memories and so many and people that live, that I know. But really, one that really stands out, well, two or three that stand out really more than anything. Every year we'd go to Wisconsin and this guy had a 40-foot fishing boat. And every year we play Sheboygan, which there was a lot of circus fans there. And they'd throw us a big bratwurst dinner. But we got this tradition. Every year we'd play that. I mean, we didn't even have to say we was going to take the day off. They knew we was going to take the day off. And we don't have days off, I'm telling you. There is no day off. You hardly ever take a day off. I'm going to go do this. That time we know we were going to take off and get in that fishing boat. There was always 4 or 5 or 6 of us. Gary Bird would be one of them. Me and my brothers, we'd all get in this one boat and go fishing. And we'd catch some big salmon, king salmon, and lake trout. We'd go out. We went out 12 miles off the bank in 120 foot of water and was catching 25-pound king salmon and laker trout. I mean, you catch so many that you get tired, So, and it was fun how we was fishing. It was like it was a television set. It was a big television set. We sat at a table, and they had a mate there, and and everybody. They put the lines out. And you just sat there and have a Heineken. That's what we did, and pretty soon you watch that. And they tell you where the fish, you could see the fish in the graph, and they'd lower those downriggers down to that depth, And pretty soon you see a rod go like that. And that guy grabbed it and said, "Here you go." And I caught like 6 or 8 of them, 20-pounder. But we'd feed the whole cookhouse that next day with those fish. That's what we did.
So
We couldn't eat them all.
They didn't mind you taking the day off.
No. We had fish after that. We smoke a salmon, and stuff like that. It was great. But that and just really every day, it's hard to say favorite places because you'd pull into a town and you wouldn't know that this was in that town, but it would be. So it'd be like a big surprise, like, hey, this happened here, so let's go look and see these historical events that happen here. Like I've been to Manassas and all the Civil War stuff because I like that kind of stuff. But I've been if I seen one, I go over and check it out. I seen where Stonewall Jackson died, and where all that big battle there happened. But my favorite state has to be Wisconsin because it's the land of lakes, and I love water. And it seemed like every town had a big lake there next to us. It's kind of like a little tourist thing. I mean, you see downtown, there's a lake, and I love that. And you'd see different things. Like we'd be there on a Friday, and they'd be having a festival downtown. We'd have the circus, and we'd go downtown and join their festival. On Sundays, we'd always get off early because we'd have 2 and 4 o'clock shows. About 6 o'clock, we were off work and going, wow, what do we do? So there would be buses going. We'd find the movies. We'd have our own personal buses. And we'd say, hey, this bus is leaving so-and-so for this movie. We'd have transportation, to take people places, to the store, the laundry. We paid people the laundry all the time, just drop them off, say, I'll be back in about an hour and a half to pick you up, and stuff like that.
So you noticed some differences between the towns. They didn't just all look alike to you.
Oh, yeah. It's in the east part of the country, it seems like everybody's crammed together, and it's just you don't really get out of a town, you just drive into another one. But when you get out west, you know, you think, hey, that's great, and then you get down in West Texas where the dirt, I mean, you have to set up a circus on some dirt, and when you get 15 elephants going around in a circle, it kicks up a lot of dirt. So we'd have to have a water truck, or the fire people, they'd come over and water the tent down, or I even bought me a 2-inch hose. Finally got down, I'd go down there out there and water it down real good about an hour before the show. But it wouldn't work that good in some places because it just, at one time DR said, get out there and water it down during the show. I tried that, and nobody else in the show liked that, you know, because I made it muddy for them, see, so, but we tried to work that out, but it was hard.
Is mud one of the bigger challenges to work around?
Well, we were really labeled as a mud circus, is what, you know, because we work in, you know, in the field, you know, you just, when you're outside, which, you know, is all right with me, but you know, working outside in the open and being in a different place every day, it's just something you got to really experience to understand being in the circus business. That, you know, one day you're here and then the next day you're underneath a big, nice, shady pine tree with beautiful green grass that you could eat off of. And then one day there'll be a lot that is so bad that you work your head off, you know, to try to keep everything down and, you know, the dirt down. And because when you even get a bunch of people walking around, and it kicks it up. So that was a problem, you know, and we watered it down. That was one of the changes, you know, that I noted. And just every day there's a change because you kind of have to think about it through process elimination. There's so many underlying things that you don't see in the circus business. And it's just, after a while, you got to figure out your own way, you know, because you're doing it. And there's a lot of things that changed between the time my mom and DR started till now. The music, they used to have a band, you know, 6 or 8 piece, 11, you know, band music. That's when I was back there. They had, you know, the band members, you know, they were quite a bunch of people got, you know, that you could hang around and, you know, just meet. I've seen professors, as you know, y'all, and teachers, and I met quite a few famous people. You know, not Pee Wee Herman. He'd come to the circus, and if you ever watch his credits on the end of his, on Pee Wee's Big Top, you'll see Carson Barnes and Kelly Miller on there. You ever see that? Yeah. So whenever you see that, the credits, because he'd come to the circus for 4 days, and got ideas, you know, everything on Kelly Miller too. But he thanked us, and it was a good show.
Well, what happens when you get sick on the road?
Well, usually you get some antibiotics. Well, you just got to take it just like any other, you know, but you just got to travel every day. I remember being sick a couple times and not having to work, but one of them was pneumonia. I got pneumonia one time on the road. And I couldn't get out of bed once, you know, one day, and I said, oh boy, I need to go to the doctor. And I had pneumonia. So I got over that. I think I was off a couple of days, you know, but being sick, you just bear with it sometimes, and a lot of times, you know, when you perform and got a contract, you have to work sick, you know. So sometimes that's how it goes.
Well, if you weren't a performer, would you have a contract? Like doing the water and sitting at the track?
No.
You wouldn't.
Oh, it's the first of the year, yeah, you make a contract with Gary, yeah, you tell him your pay scale and everything. So
Not just performers, and all the employees.
you decide on your pay and what you got to do. Of course, being a family member, I don't mind doing a little extra or whatever we got to do to get the show on the road. 'Cause that's just what you got to do. They tell me to, if it was a muddy lot, they tell me to go get in the trucks and hit about fifth gear about the time you hit the dirt. I mean, they tell you, and the ought to be going like this, go around, and you know exactly how you want to do it because we do it every day. And I'd probably be going about 40 miles an hour, but I'd be getting that truck to where it needed to go, to be parked, because every day trucks went basically the same way. The midway and everything was parked the same way. So we had an idea how he wanted it and everything. So it's pretty easy. But the trucks, the way I learned the truck is my daddy, I rode with him one day, and I watched him, he told me to watch him, and then one day somebody blew the show, and they were one truck driver, and sometimes they'd have to double back, see. They'd go to the road, and they'd have to come back and get a truck and go back, see, because they didn't have enough people driving trucks. So they told me to get in this seat truck and drive it. And I did, and I learned how to drive.
Did you blow any arrows?
Oh, yes. Actually, the first time I got in a truck, I blew the arrows. We were going from here to Austin, Texas, and I made it all the way to Austin. But when we got into this side of Austin, I missed the turn arrows, and I went through downtown, and then I broke down. And I had a police officer come by and said, "What's the matter?" I said, "Well, I broke down. I'm with the circus." "Where are you going?" "Sir, I don't even know. I know the circus is around here somewhere. I blew the arrows." I had to explain what arrows were. This is arrows we follow. So he eventually called in and found out where. I said, "You were way back the other side of town." So he took me back there, and the mechanic came and got me and towed me back. That's my first experience of blowing the arrows. And then there's certain trucks that are very valuable. One of the most valuable trucks is the spool truck and the pole truck, which got all the poles to the tent. And I somehow got in the pole truck. I don't know why I got in the pole truck. They told me to drive it that morning. And they shouldn't have, because I blew the arrows. And if you know Georgia and Florida and Alabama, they're all right there close together. I went through 3 states before I figured I blew the arrows. And I had to come back, go through the weigh scales. I was all legal and everything, but I was about 150 miles from where I was supposed to be. And I had all the poles to the tent. Nobody could put the tent up or anything.
And then what happened when you showed up with them?
Well, they were happy, but unhappy. But I just, I just explained, hey, I just blew it.
Did you get to drive the pole truck again?
Yeah, I drove. They put me in there. People do it all the time. If you're human, you're going to blow the arrows. Because in the morning, they give you a little route slip, and that's one thing you got to get, because that tells you where you're going, the route of the roads and everything, the turns. It's called a route slip. And the guy that, when you drive off the block, he'll hand you one, making sure you have one so you know where you're going. Because you're going to a different town every day. But I knew a lady that blew the arrows, and she got lost, and she didn't know where she was going or where she'd been. But she found the circus, but the police officer was laughing because she didn't know where she was going or where she'd been. She's looking for these aerials. She couldn't speak good English, but anyway, that's another story.
And before cell phones, huh?
Yeah, before cell phones and everything.
GPS.
Yeah, for everything. Yeah, that's not even known back then.
Well, you learn a lot of geography.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, you travel a lot, about 20, 25 states a year. About 20,000 miles a year. Average is what we traveled back, in my day. But you may have a 200-mile jump, then you may have a 100-mile jump, and then a 5-mile jump, and a 10-mile, and then another 100. It's just, wherever they book the show.
Did you ever have to set up in snow or take down because of snow?
Twice. One time in Anaconda, Wyoming, on the 4th of July.
Wow.
Yep. That's weird, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Up in the hill. We noticed the storm coming in, and it was really mountainous there. And when that cloud went over, that mountain up there was white. I said, "Damn, that's snow." So we looked up there, and then just probably 10 minutes later, here comes some snow. But there was a big snowstorm, and I'm trying to think of where it was. I think it was in Broken Bow, where we had a bunch of snow on there. And we had the tent had so much snow on it, we had to take the tent and completely roll it all the way over so the snow, take one end and just fold it over and get this other end out so the snow would get off of it. Yeah. That was early spring snow on us.
As a kid, did you ever have to repair the tent?
Oh yeah. We see. I can't remember what year we turned to vinyl, but we had canvas tents, and I sewed a lot of baseball stitches, miles of it. Every day, we'd spread the tent out the night before or something. If we had a tear, it wasn't like it was just going to stay there. That thing would just keep going. And we knew that morning we'd have to get that tent out, unload it, and start sewing it up before we could put it up. So that was just like, and we had a guy, Alfonso Lowell. He was he was just, could just sew like you wouldn't believe. And he was the one that taught me how to do it. But I baseball stitched and stitched two or three different ways. But, I'd be stitching from here to there, try to get it done in an hour. Using this big needle and one of these things in your hand that you got to shove through. See, because you got to shove it through canvas and rope and everything. And bring it out and go right back through it. May not look pretty sometimes, but I eventually got so it looked real good whenever I say, "Yeah, I did that up there." It's holding, it's holding up. So, but
And you would usually do that when you were setting up rather than taking down.
Well, in the mornings we'd get that tent, unroll it, and get it spread out, and then we'd inspect it, make sure there wasn't no bad places in it. And this was when we had canvas. Now vinyl is a whole different deal. We'd still have tears, but we'd seal it up with a blow dryer and pieces of vinyl. You wouldn't have to sew it. It was kind of glued together by heat. If you had a tear, you just get a patch and just it's like a hair dryer, but a heat. You just get that and mold it right in there.
A lot easier.
It's a lot easier.
About when that changed, do you know about when it went from canvas to?
I'm trying to think. It had to be in late 70s or early 80s. Was when, probably late 70s. Is when they changed over.
Did that change the spool track too, or did it really?
It stayed the same, except it got easier because on a wet, when the canvas gets wet, it gets heavy. Mm-hmm. Vinyl, it don't soak in, so it wasn't a big difference. I could tell the difference whenever I was rolling it up, how tough it was and everything. But this stuff here is slick and slide, and how vinyl is. It's real nice and smooth. But our tents were made, I think, in Italy back then. We'd have a new one every 2 or 3, about 3 or 4 years. We'd get us a new big top. That's about what they lasted.
Does the vinyl last longer or?
Yeah.
Shorter?
And I think it's a lot fire retardant, insurance and all that. This canvas is, I don't think it's very good. I think you can spray something on canvas and make it retardant, but nothing like vinyl. We even had a piece that we had, and that was another part of my job. I had to deal with a health inspector and the fire marshals. That was part of my job too. I had to make them happy. And they wanted to see the tent, and they want you to demonstrate it, heating it up or put a flame underneath it with a fire. And I do that.
Every town.
Almost every town. And some of them, they just still, I don't know, but they'd okay, give us permit. But there were some towns where they were pretty rough. One that I remember in Greeley, Colorado, this inspector didn't like something, and he shut us down, the concessions down. And we found out that the way they did that was because they had a concession stand of their own they wanted to put up. So the ER says, well, I'll tell you what, I'll just pack my circus up and leave. So about an hour later, we got our concessions out. That's how he was. He wasn't going to let somebody bombard him with something like that, like, hey, this is my circus, and, this is a good thing. So don't, but he'd tell them the way it is.
Were you on the road when DR died?
No. I was here in winter quarters. I talked to him before he left because actually he wanted me to drive him to Chicago because he couldn't drive, and I couldn't do it. He called me and asked me, can you take me up there? And I said, no, I'm too busy right now. I just can't do it. He says, well, okay. But he wanted me to drive him up there, but he died, I guess, in the town that he first saw his first circus in Macomb, Nebraska. That so we miss him.
You said you had 4 brothers and sisters. There were 5.
There's 5 of us. I got 3 brothers and a sister.
Did the rest of them stay involved with the
Right now, my sister, she travels with the circus. I got a brother in Monterey, California. I got 2 brothers here in Hugo.
Did their careers follow
Just
similar-
like mine.
similar
Yes,
paths?
similar to mine. My brother Randy, he caught in the trapeze. He was a mechanic, He worked elephants, caught tigers when they got loose, just like me. Or any animal got loose, Elephants got loose, we'd go catch them. Dana, he was a superintendent for Carson Bars for a while, and Jack, my older brother, him and I had concessions. In that concessions, him and I had concessions for 4 or 5 years, and we just do it, when just anything and everything what they needed, And Lisa, she's right now traveling with us. She's the only one that's currently with Carson Barnes, and she does just a little bit. She does a lot of office work and stuff like that, and helps with the wardrobe, and goes in and helps choreograph the show with Barbara, and getting the girls ready for doors, and the people coming in. She's in it up to her neck. She loves it too. But anyway, and myself, I'm an electrician right now, and that's what we do right now.
Did you learn some of that on the show?
Yes, I learned a lot of it, and I wasn't an electrician on the show, but
They do have one typically, don't they?
oh yeah, they have 4 or 5. They have 4 or 5 electricians, or did have whenever I was there, because they have generators, that they're all self-contained. The city don't give them power or anything. They got their own generator, big generator. And if you remember in Wichita Falls, whenever that tornado went through there years and years and years ago, we took our generator down there to run the hospital. They called us, yeah. So that's my family.
Would you do it all over again?
I'll do it again. Yeah, I wish I could go back sometime. I don't know. It's just something that gets in your blood, and it's just something that I don't know. It's just it's fun and rewarding, and it's a good thing, And really, when you think of a circus, you think about animals, but I think about the children, the smiles. I look around and see all these people smiling when they see somebody doing an act. and their eyes, glazed. Wow, wow, wow. Of course, I was like that too. But when you first see something, like a circus, you don't expect a lot of the stuff. And, you got to be amazed at it. But I think circus business is great, but you got to think about the number one thing. What you're really doing is entertaining, and you're entertaining children. But there's a lot of adults that are entertained too, and that's the children. Because you can be, I can see, I can go to the circus and I'll say, wow, I didn't know they do that. That's something I just never seen, So you don't, it's not, it's something that you learn. It's a learning experience. It really is. It's, I don't know, you really can't explain it. I don't know. It's when you get up in the morning and you're ready to go to the next town and you don't know where you're going and you don't know who you're going to meet. And then when you get there, you're happily surprised or you're not. You just don't know. Of course, there's a lot of towns that you play every year, and I know what was going to be there. So it's like, wow, when we go to this town, when I get a route card, I say, I'm going to go to this place, and do this. I even saw the Eagles in Denver one time for $50. I mean, I couldn't pass that up. They were playing right there that day. I had to do it. Guy gave me 2 tickets that sponsored the show. What can you do? So I saw the Eagles. And I mean, you just travel around and it's just like a wonderland, really. Really.
A little bit of a mystery each day.
Yeah. You got a lot of work to do, but if you're in that town, you get rewarded by it, I thought, So.
Sounds like you have to be able to multitask as well as manage your time and stay very organized.
Yeah, well, you have to make time to take you a nap, to rest. I mean, at least three hours anyway, 3 or 4. Well, actually, what I'd probably do, I go to sleep about 6 o'clock because I'd have to get up about 10 and go back to work. I try to eat my dinner and then go take me a little nap so I can get up at 10 to work till about 12 or 1, then get up at 5:30. So 8 hours if you get lucky. And then on Sunday, like I told you, you get off early. A lot of people just said, I'm going to go lay down. I'm tired.
What day was payday?
Sunday. See, short day, payday. It was all there.
Paid in cash, I suppose.
Pardon me?
Paid in cash.
Yeah. You sign and they pay you cash.
Would you have to? Was it easy to save for the winter or no?
Well, I saved a little bit. You couldn't save it all. Of course, to tell you the truth, you didn't have a whole lot of time to spend a bunch of money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just like you got to be dedicated. Because if you're not, you'll be miserable.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't have much time to.
Well, if you worked in winter quarters too, though, painting, so you might not have had to save as much during the season.
Yeah, well, I'd have a few $1,000s saved.
Well, could you talk a little bit about the relationship between the circus and the Hugo community?
Yes, there's a lot of people here that are show people. And right now, I'm the president of the Circus City Showman's Club, and we're just a group of show people that want to preserve the circus history in Hugo. And for any kind of entertainment, it's music, just any kind of entertainment, we're gonna, support that. And the circus, of course, has the history of some of it I don't know about. There's a lot of stuff about Hugo and the circus that I don't know about. But it was kind of like match made in heaven, I think. You know, they call this area Sarasota, southeast Sarasota. You know, that's what Hugo's nickname is. And, you know, it's a place where, you know, everybody comes every winter, you know, and when all three circuses come in, they all want to get together and see what happened all year long. And we try to have a dinner, you know, in the community. We all try to get and, you know, find out new stories, or, you know, during the year, we can find out what they're doing, or who's joined, or, you know, who's left. But we're trying right now to build us a museum to more or less document what Circus has meant to Hugo and what Hugo's meant to the circus. You know, it was a good decision by DR and Anna to say, hey, you know, this is a good place. And of course, all the Chamber of Commerce and all those clubs and people, they all just Masons, you know, and they're all for the circuses. They support us any way they can, you know. So, and of course, Hugo is Circus City, USA, and I'm trying to think if there's another one besides Sarasota, and I don't think there is. So, it's a very unique. It's a unique thing that happened here in Hugo. You know, they don't even know it, really. They got the largest herd of elephants in North America sitting right out here, you know. And got a lost ark. DR dedicated his whole life to elephants, and he was going to say, okay, you took care of me, I'm going to take care of you. I love you. That's how he was. You know, I could see a sparkle in his eye, you know, the way he felt about it. But Hugo supports the circuses, you know, and I don't even know of one merchant that I've ever went to and said, hey, you know, here we have a circus day every day, and I go around as a clown and give cotton candy. And every merchant that I go in and give the circus deal. It's Circus Day nationwide, and we're giving away free cotton candy. And oh yeah, see, then that's their little kid in them, see, saying, oh yeah, I want a cotton candy. And then several of them will say, oh no, and then by the time I get to the door, they'll say, oh wait a minute, yeah, I'll take it. So it's well taken in this town, and there's a lot of people that don't even know that they have family or have been in the circus or have family that's with the circus or have traveled with them. There's, you know, it's just a treasure trove of them, you know. I guess, and we have, of course, you know, Showman's Rest, and that's the final spot. So I think, and you know, the community really helps out on that, and I think we help the community out, and I mean, it works two ways, and it really works good.
When was the last time you went to a circus?
It was, let's see, whenever the circus went out this year.
This year, okay.
Oh yeah, this year. I always go to opening day, and then when Kelly Miller come out here, I went to that one. So I go to try to make everyone at least one show. If when they're starting off and they're not too far away. Now in Dallas, they maybe get too far away. I'll see them whenever they get back, because I like to see the show after it's been on the road about a month, because they're polished up real good. When you first start out, everybody's a little, you know, you need to.
Work
it's
out
just
the kinks.
Yeah, work out the kinks, and sometimes you got to tell them, work this kink out, if they don't know to do it themselves. So that's part of circus business. You got to be straightforward, because you're there really representing the circus, you know. I mean, you're performing, representing this, and we want, you know, you to be the best you can, and there's a certain protocol you got to go, you know, to do it right. You got to smile, and you can't ever have a frown on your face.
Well, as a spectator now that you can enjoy the circus, what's your favorite part?
The elephants. The elephants. They always be and always will be. I just had I was lucky to, whenever I was with us putting the big top up and sat in reserve seats, I was working with an elephant. And I don't know, it's just something that just jump on, and I don't know, you think about what you do, and then you think, wow, I've worked with an elephant and put seats up and put a big top up with her. And well, I'm talking about Barbara the elephant. She just passed away a couple of years ago. But she was my favorite out of all of them. She's just it's like talking to another human being. It was.
You mentioned smell aroma when we first started with
Yeah.
popcorn and such. Do you miss any particular smells?
No. I could drive by the stockyard down there and I can smell the same old smell, but no. Yeah, there's a smell that I can say I do miss. Whenever I worked for the circus, there were a lot of little Mexican families, and I don't know if I'll tell everybody this, but I used to go over there and say, hey, what do you got for breakfast? Because it smelled so good. And I'll pay you $1 or $2 for some tacos or so. I'd walk around and I could smell whoever was cooking. I said, man, that smells good. I don't want to go to the pie car or anything. I'll just go over here and get me a couple tacos, just while I'm walking by. And hey, I'll bring you some water real fast too. But, that smell-o-vision, of course, you got the bad too. You got the elephants and the horses and, everybody. But no, the popcorn smell and all that other stuff, it's good.
Looking at old route books, I noticed that some of the circus would have soccer teams.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, on Sunday, everybody be off early, and I even played. And if we had a small jump, had time, and we'd be set up by 10 or 11 o'clock. I mean, if we could get up at 5 and have a 5-mile jump, we could be all set up by 10 or 11. The whole thing, this tent, and then we go back, and a lot of times we knew where we were going to play, and we knew there was a soccer field close by, and we always played soccer. I mean, it was like we had to do it. I don't know. It was. I really don't know. That's where I learned to play soccer at, and but we'd play at least 2 or 3 times a week. I know it. And sometimes we'd even have our own teams, Americans against the Mexico in softball. We'd have softball tournament. We'd go over and play softball. Get everybody together. It was kind of like getting everybody community and getting everybody on. Because when you travel with 200 people, sometimes it gets a little bit hairy. But that was one way of letting out some steam, I think, was playing soccer. And we'd play some rough games. And from Mexico, there's some good. I've seen my brother-in-law, Jaime, he can kick the ball. He can drill. I mean, he's good. And I've seen some. They could be professional, some of them, 2 or 3 I've seen. And we play softball. We even play football. We'd have a football game. Basketball. We play all the sports. Oh, I played all sports in high school. I played 5 sports in high school. That's what I did. Lettered all 4 years and 5 sports. That's 20 times. So I was a wrestler. I was state baseball champion. I was basketball. I scored 48 points in a basketball game. And I was a state champion wrestler from Kansas and Missouri in 7th and 8th grade. So
You're a ringer.
they called me Jim Thorpe. But that was a joke back then. But that's and to tell you the truth, a lot of that stems from the circus. Really. I mean, competition is what it's about, and I loved competition when I was a kid. I played baseball. I mean, sports was was everything to me. So, yep.
Some of that played over into setting up the tent in a certain amount of time and getting the water delivered a certain amount of time. That's still like
Right. Yep.
urge to get it.
Yep. Kind of same way.
Well, it's good that, you work hard, but you also make time to play a little bit too.
Oh yeah. Of course, you're in a different town every day, so I mean, it's just you may be tired and not want to do it, but you want to go do it. Make yourself do it. I know in Pittsburgh we played the railroad station there, and they had a ship on the river there, so we all decided that night we was going to go on. It was like a sightseeing ship. We all got on there. I mean, we had a ball. It was just us, but we had a ball. That was one of a fun memory of my mom and on my Aunt Island, DR, and going down there being on that ship. I told DR, I said, I wonder if this one's going to sink. He laughed. But anyway.
Well, as we come to a close, do you remember DR's funeral in town?
Yes, I remember it quite well. It was probably the biggest funeral in Hugo had ever had. There were people on the side of the road. He was carried in a horse-drawn carriage that John Ringling himself was carried in. And if you knew, he died in, I think September, and they kept him in Colorado till all the circuses come in so that they could celebrate his life. And he had it in the Kelly Miller tent at the Agriplex. We all met out at the house, in the big house, and drove up here. They had us, the limos and stuff. And it was quite something to see, to experience. You never forget it because, that's the only one really horse-drawn carriage I've seen. Funeral like that, I've never experienced one. But he wanted the best. I mean, he was a showman all the way. He had an elephant behind him, and the truck, it was all pretty good. He inspired a lot of people, but you can't even imagine how many people, millions, well, I'd say billions of times he's put a smile on a child's face because that was what he did when he saw his first circuit. He could say, hey, I could do this, and he enjoyed it a lot. So he's quite a guy. But we hate to see him go.
And he actually started with a dog and pony show.
Yeah.
Actual.
And then I think he got a monkey, and then he got an elephant. I think that's how it worked.
Well, you hear that phrase. I hadn't
And
thought
I
of
can't
it as
remember the
actually,
name of it.
an actual dog and pony.
Yeah. And he built it to be America's largest wild animal circus. That's where he started at. It was.
Did your mom ever retire, or did she just continue?
She retired. Yes, she retired in 95 or 96.
That's a long time.
Yeah. She was there 30-some, 40 years. Always there, they needed her, So, of course, she didn't travel all the time, but,
Made a lot of costumes.
Oh, yeah, she made a lot of elephant blankets. That's what she's known for, and a lot of costumes. She was there trying to, I don't know how she did it, really, to tell you the truth. Because she was just talented, and she grew up making her own clothes and stuff. See, everybody, Aunt Isla did, her and Aunt Isla, they just get a thing in their head. I'm going to do it like this. And if anybody does it any different, don't let me see you, because I want it done like this, that, and another. I mean, they had their ways and they wanted it, and you had to be that way, So
Were you allowed in the basement when they were doing all this?
Well, they did it in the basement for a while, and then they moved it to the stable. I love the basement. It's a neat place. I grew up down in there playing as a little kid. He used to have a big train set in the back room back in there where he had all his trains, circus trains. We loved to go in there and just look. I was just fascinated, all the little intricate things. He had like a big just table full of trains going everywhere. You know, and of course he had a pool table down there and the jukebox and the silver dollar bar, which is famous. It's made out of silver dollars. Old silver dollars, spelt out silver dollar bar, but back in the 60s, I think somebody broke in the house and stole them all. And they retrieved almost all of them, I think, back, though. They found out who did it. And the guy come back down and redone it all. It's been that way ever since. And there's a full 2 kitchen down in there, and a bedroom and a shower and a shooting gallery, you know, where you can shoot a .22 down there and rabbits over there. They got a shooting gallery down in there.
No wonder it's called the big house then.
Yeah. So,
But
But
the
in-
circus people would come back and they would have social events or whatever in the big house.
yeah, we'd have a few there. There was a few Las Vegas style parties they had there, you know. But DR and ALI, they didn't have a whole lot of parties or nothing, you know. They were kind of just, we go over and eat, you know, and on holidays and stuff, and, you know, be over there. Of course, as a kid, they have a goldfish pond out in front. It was our swimming hole too. Until they told us to get our butt out of there. But we used to jump in and swim and get out real fast. Be all green, you know. We were kids though. We were trying to catch them goldfish in there, and they had one goldfish in the back. We wouldn't play in it because they could see back there, but in the front of the house, they couldn't see us down in there. We were seining it, you know, and trying to get some goldfish.
A little mischief too.
Yeah. Oh, yes. When you got children, 4 of them, you got a lot of mischief. Of course, they had a pond, a lake right next door. We fished there, you know. A lot of fun.
Well, why today do you continue to call Hugo home?
Well, several reasons. I've lived here more than I've lived anywhere else, basically. And I like the climate, except for right now. It's hot, 100 degrees every day. But I lived in Kansas, and I dealt with the snow and all that. When I come down here, it's just like, wow, you don't even get hardly any snow. And I like the climate. I just stay here because my family's here, and I got a lot of friends, and it's just home to me. Of course, Kansas City's home too, my second home. Of course, didn't live there as long as I lived in Hugo, but I call that home too. So, but Hugo's my home, and you know, Showman's Rest. My family's buried here, and I'm just kind of connected. And I don't like the city anymore. The rat race is another thing. I've been there, done that. So, in the days on the railroad, whenever I had an engine on the ground or something on the ground, I dreamed about the days I didn't have the engine on the ground and I was sitting in my house, and I'm doing it right now. So, take me 2 days to do it, but that's the way it worked.
It's been a good life.
Oh yeah, it's been fun. I haven't even really started to tell you half of it.
Well, get to it then.
Well, we'll have to do it again. Or we'll do it again. But I'd really like to do a story about all these adventures hunting animals. And, you know, because, let's see, I got a little list here. You know, when a tiger got loose, we had to capture it. When the elephants got loose, Barbara got loose in Wisconsin. and when 8 babies, elephants run off in Winslow, Arizona. You know, how we caught them and how, you know.
How does one capture 8 baby elephants?
Well, by luck, well, to tell you the story, I was driving an elephant truck, and my truck had been not running real well, so they took and unhooked my truck from a trailer. So that morning, whenever everything was leaving, they fixed my truck that day, hooked it back up, but they didn't put the lock back in it. So when I pulled up, the trailer fell off, and I had a load of elephants in there. So you can't crank the trailer up with a load of elephants in there. So what do? I get the elephant guy that's there and say, hey man, what do we do? He says, well, we're gonna have to unload them and get that trailer up. So we unload them, and being around elephants, when you unload something, they got a routine they go by. An elephant does. When you unload them, they're gonna go and you're gonna go hook them up, put them in the pen over there. Well, when they got out, they looked around, oh, this is different. Mm. And they took off. 8 of them did. We had a 6-foot fence around the fairgrounds, and that kept 2. Well, we kept all but 2 inside the fairgrounds, and we caught them. Ted Bowman, which was our, I can't remember his job, but he was a front doorman. He had a car and a trailer. He was one of the last ones to leave. And I told him, I said, Ted, you see that elephant run down there along that track? Go along the road there and try to keep up with it. And then we had another one run down in a ravine right next to the place. So eventually we got all but 2 of them in there, and that one up there was over there attacking Ted's car, and he was going back and forth along the highway. And finally we caught it, but the one down in the ravine, we couldn't hardly catch it, because it just go down one end, it just go back and forth. So finally we we had a ravine, then another ravine that come into that. We backed a semi down there. It was like this too. I did it. I backed it down in there, and there was a door in the front. And when that elephant come by, you know, that door is right there. The trailer would be sticking down there, and it wouldn't go in there. So eventually we had to get a cable, run it through and hook that elephant up in there and put it in there like that. That was one of the ways to catch it. But it simmered down, and it jumped right in the trailer, you know, after we just simmered it down. But that's how we caught it. That was the only way. That was in Winslow, Arizona. So, and then another one was in Wisconsin. This was with Barbara, the elephant. She was putting the big top up, and a car went by and backfired. Boom. Oh, that spooked her. She was putting the tent up, so when she took off and went underneath the sidewall and started going down the road, she had a pole hooked onto her, and it come unhooked. But there was a Chevy Love pickup with a camper on it, and somehow that harness got over that ball of the back and hooked that trailer and started pulling that thing backwards, flipped it over, and was dragging it 3 or 4 blocks on its back, just dragging it. And it ran off into a cornfield. But before that, she went to a nursing home which had some big plate glass windows. She come running by there, and she looked over and she saw herself in this window. So she went right through that window, went right through double doors, right down a big long hallway in the nursing home. She's inside the nursing home in the hallway. Those people are over eating in the cafeteria, and here comes an elephant down the hallway. She gets down to the end of the hallway and the double doors. She just stomps them, knocks it down, goes right through there and runs out in a corn patch. And then we get out there, my dad, me, and John Carroll, we get out there and we got change, you know, we're going to try to get her to settle down. Well, when an elephant tromps through a cornfield, it's like 3 rows that's tromped. It's just a big path, just a big old path through there. So we just follow this path. We don't know where she's at. So all of a sudden, we turn around, there's her tail going like this, and she turns, comes at me and knocks me down, knocks my dad down. Well, it kind of pushes him down and knocks old John Carroll down. And then she just kind of stops and just, because she knew, hey, whoa, wait, these are good people. And then we settled her down and hobbled her up, and she just jumped right, we took a semi over there, and she just jumped right in there and said, hey, but that backfire, that, you know, of that,
Mhm.
it just scared her a little bit, and she just kind of took off.
Well, how did the fixer take care of the nursing home damage then?
The insurance, I'm sure.
But that wasn't your concern at that point, huh?
No, it was
Someone
just
else
getting
did it.
her and safe and simmer down a little bit. Because, you know, sometimes you don't know what they're thinking. You just got to love on them a little bit.
Mm.
That's what it takes.
And then the tiger one you mentioned.
Oh, the tiger? Well, there's been 2 tiger hunts. I was in York, Pennsylvania one time, and we were there setting up, and somebody come hollering that a tiger got loose. They were shifting cages, you know. They put cages up together, somehow it got in between there and got out. So, first thing on my mind was my kids. I go, where are my kids at? There's a tiger loose. And I don't know where it's even loose at. It's just somebody says there's a tiger loose. So, that day we were lined up, the trailers were, and I went over to my house and I seen all my kids. So I grabbed all 4 of them, I threw them in that trailer. I not alone threw them in the trailer. I looked back and there went that tiger right behind my trailer. So I didn't jump in. So I seen that thing. It was running pretty fast. So I went down. I looked down. And there was about 3 or 4 trailers there. And then the horse trailer was right there. And that tiger was going down, and he had a bunch of Shetland ponies. It was going down biting each one of them. It was they were just sitting there eating. They didn't know what was going on behind them. He just, you know. And then Alfonso Loyal, he had a Belgium horse there. And Alfonso, I seen this, he jumped in front of that tiger before he got to his horse. Because he was right there, see. He just jumped in front of that tiger, spooked it off. And then went right down, and there was a park right there, and we went down there and laid down. And we got some canvas tent, and went and made a circle, circled it in. We was just holding it real high, a bunch of it. Kind of, we got around and got a cage, wheeled it down in there, and just started funneling it in slow, and got him in that cage. That's how we caught it.
I guess you have to be ready for everything on the road.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because I've seen the elephants running a little bit. I mean, it's just one time we were right next to a railroad track, and this is funny because Barbara was pulling stakes, pulling stakes out of the ground, and a train come by and spooked her. We were all lined up in a row, folding the tent because we were folding it up at night. She come running down through that train scare. She come running down, and the elephants were on the other side, so she was running toward them. But she went down. All these guys she didn't know until she come to me, and then she just went right across. She kind of pushed me away and went right across there. But she didn't want to cross that line. She knew all these other people. They didn't know their face. He went down probably, I don't know, 20 yards probably. She come down that line, and then when she come to me, she just come over and went right across and ran over to I got out of her way. She just come running across there. She knew my face. She just, oh, there's a face I know. I'm going to go. But anyway, that was a few things that I've done. Of course, my brother, he captured the tiger here in Hugo. He was, it was loose, and I don't know if y'all know this, but at the lake, they spotted it over at the lake. It got loose here in winter quarter. And finally, we couldn't really find it after they spotted it, so DR called the governor and got an Apache helicopter down here with a heat sensor. So they started combing this land, and they finally located it. He said the only thing they could tell, they were deer and all kinds of stuff, but they seen that long tail. And they said, that's it right there. So they went down, that was it. And then my brothers and everybody got in the truck. They found out where they were. We all got in the truck, went out to the lake. Had to stop a bunch of media there because they were just going to come flooding in. I said, one person, and that's it. So one person got to film it all. And they darted it. It's right there where the marina is, Hugo Marina. They darted it. We carried it, threw it in the back of the truck, and took her home, safe and sound. but that Apache was up there with the light on it, telling us which way to go. You know, we were.
And DR called the governor to request that.
Yeah, he called and said, we need some kind of equipment to get this tiger caught because it keeps just getting away. My brother trailed it for a long time. But it was over, and then it was probably about 2 miles. It was in this, come up to this guy's front door, and he went outside. He was going to feed it cat food. And that thing roared at him, so he jumped back in the house.
Probably smart.
Yeah, but it's funny how he said it. Yeah, it roared and I jumped right back in the house. But that's when we found out where the location of it was, and then after that it went across the highway and got into the Hugo City treatment plant there on this side of Hugo, got inside there, got inside the fence somehow. And then when they spotted it, it crawled the fence and went back toward the lake. So finally, a couple of days later, they spotted it and got it. So that's another adventure.
Do the town people panic when something like that happens? Or
well, yeah, in a way. You didn't want to go to the lake, you know. Of course, the elephants that got loose here in 5 days, they were here. There were 2 elephants at the lake 5 days. They got loose. And that reminds me of another story. In Sallisaw, Oklahoma, this is when we lost one of our elephants. It was OOHRP #1. We had played Sallisaw, and they'd set the circus up on an old landfill. And it rained like cats and dogs all night long. And we couldn't get none of our trucks off the lot. So we come up with this idea, let's unload the elephants out of the trucks and get them over there and then load them up on a deal. So that didn't work. So when we unloaded them, they took off, just like they did that other time. But this one, what happened was, I think 3 of them took off, and there was a big quarry out right behind where they went. 3 of them fell off, and then one of them fell on over and killed her. But finally we got those other 2. It was funny because we got a call and said, my little girl said, Daddy, there's an elephant out here in my yard. And he kept saying, oh, please, no, don't. There's not an elephant out there, honey. And he goes back out there, and there are clotheslines tore down, and there's elephant prints everywhere. And he goes, well, I think there's an elephant out here. So we find it, and we dart it. You know, and it was late that night, so my brother Dana, he spent the night with her out there, and you know. But anyway, we got her fixed up. But we lost OOHRP on that deal. That was a bad deal.
so you keep darts with you just for that purpose?
Yeah,
Just for
yeah,
that as
yeah. You got a
precaution.
weapon. You got to keep something there to. You're dealing with wild animals. You know, you got to always have something there. And this reminds me of another thing. I used to go to some zoos and pick up animals. I went to Kansas City one time. I couldn't, since I was from there. I said, oh yeah, I'll go. So there was 2 tigers up there. So we go up, and I go to Swope Park Zoo there and pick them up. And I got an aunt that lives there, and she's got a little girl in kindergarten. So that night it was real snowy and cold. So I backed those tigers in the garage, you know, so they'll be out of the weather. Well, the next day, my little niece, she goes to school, kindergarten, saying, "Oh, you won't believe these tigers in my garage." And the teacher calls Brenda and says, "Oh, your daughter won't quit talking about this." She says, I think she's saying there's tigers in your garage." And Brenda goes, "Well, you wouldn't believe it, but there are."
She's not telling stories.
She's not telling stories. So Sabrina, there's one good for her because she wouldn't let that one down.
Good memories.
Yeah, good memories.
Goes back to children too.
Mm-hmm. Goes back to them.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share before we close out today?
Right now, that's probably all I need to tell you, but I probably could come up with some more, and we'll postpone that to a later date, and we'll get some more of my family members here, and we'll do a family thing.
Sounds great. Well, we really appreciate your time this morning, talking to us about
It's my honor.
your
It's my
family
honor.
and the circus here in Hugo.
I appreciate you too
Thank you.
very much.